Okay guys, today we're going to begin lesson 2 by talking about the different views that Microsoft Word 2010 has that's available to you. Now there are 5 views. Technically there is a 6th view, and as we get to moving along you'll see what I'm talking about when it comes to that 6th view. Okay, so the first view we're going to talk about today is called the Print Layout view. Now the Print Layout view is accessible by clicking the View ribbon, Document Views group, and click Print Layout. That's pretty self-explanatory. The standard working view for all print documents. So it is the standard working view for all print documents. It is also the default view in Word 2010. It shows you how your document will look when it is printed. And the page and line breaks, the placement of pictures, the way text wraps around pictures or other items, the arrangement of columns, the distance of the text from the edge of the document, etc. is all shown in this view. And this is very useful for editing headers and footers, adjusting margins, and drawing objects. Now, I'm going to circle some things right here. It's very useful for editing headers and footers. Now you may see that again. It is also the standard working view, and it is the default view. These are all things that you need to know that are super important because you may see these again. So now let's move on. Again, remember that if you need to pause this video to take down your notes, you can do so at any point in time. So this is what the print layout view looks like. It's pretty easy. You've all seen this before. It's nothing hard. Now I do want to notate something on here while we're looking at this. In the text on the previous slide, you saw that it told you that the way to select this text was to go to the View ribbon. Well, there's also another option to select this view, and that's down here at the bottom, and I'm just going to change my color. I will do purple. And that's down here. Notice here, and we talked about these earlier in the first video, or the first lesson, the different parts of the Word window. We have these view buttons. Now, as we go along, we're going to be talking about these different view buttons because they're the same thing as what's available on the View ribbon. So if we take the first one, obviously it looks like it's highlighted. So this is the print. Whoops, I'm sorry. Let me get my eraser. So this is the print. Got a new pen layout. View. Okay. So that's the print layout view. And I don't know what it's just happened. Alright, so let's move on. Next view we have is called the full screen reading view. Now this view is available from the View ribbon, Document Views group, and click on Full Screen Reading. Now again, it is also available down on the status bar in the bottom right hand corner. And this view makes it easy to read and comment on documents on your screen. And that, I'm going to star that. Again, I've got a new pen, and it's not quite calibrated yet. It's close enough, star. This view gives you the maximum space on screen so that you can scan the text easily by hiding some of the word elements. For example, the tabs, the ribbon, and the status bar are hidden from view. And we'll look at that on the next slide. So let's go ahead and move on. I'll come down here, click. This is what the full screen reading view looks like. It's just, you know, if you've ever used an e-reader, a Kindle, or something like that, this is kind of what it looks like. It just gives you 2 very basic pages, and it lists all the information that's available to you or what you can read. You don't do a whole lot of editing. You see that your only tools are located here in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. You don't have a lot of functionality. You can highlight or you can make comments, which we'll talk about comments later on. Now, very important thing to note here, and you may want to write this down. I'm going to change my pen color back to red so that you can see it a little bit better. When in the full screen reading view, if you press the close button in the top right hand corner, this does not close the document. So it does not close the document. What it does instead is it closes. I'm going to write across this text. This might be a little hard. So it closes. Whoops, this view. Okay, so it just closes the view. It doesn't actually close the document out. It just closes the view. And moving on. Next we have web layout view. And this view is accessible by clicking the View ribbon, Document Views group, and clicking Web Layout. This enables you to see how your documents will look if they are posted online as web pages. Now, Microsoft Word is also can be used as a web editor. Okay, and that's an O. All the elements on your page are displayed, but the font size, line length, and page length are adjusted to fit the window, just as they are on many web pages. And the document appears as one long page with no breaks, because obviously there are no breaks when it comes to web pages. It's all one thing. Now, we don't actually get into any web design. We may if we have some extra time, because it is kind of interesting to be able to see how you can create web pages using Microsoft Word. And let's take a look at that view. So let's move on. Here's what this view looks like. You see here we're on the View ribbon. Under the Document Views group, we have the different layout or the views that we have available to us. And here's Web Layout. And Web Layout shows us it's all one line. Notice that it does have margins because the typical screen resolution width will go from 0 to a little over 10. Okay, so I'll just say greater than 10. Typically, you don't want to get any larger than that. Notice still you still have all the same functionality on the ribbon. It's not hidden, unlike the full screen reading view. I also want you to notate down here which button. It's the third button. Okay. I'll change my pen. We'll do navy. This button, you didn't get to see on the last view. It's the full screen reading. Okay, and I'm just going to abbreviate because you know what I'm talking about. That's the full screen reading view button. Alright, and I didn't draw my line. Okay, now let's move on. The next view we're going to talk about is the outline view. The outline view is available on the View ribbon, Document Views group, and you click on Outline. Outline view shows you your document as an outline, with the paragraph formatting defining the levels of the outline. This is very important, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but this paragraph right here is very important. It may not make sense right now, but in the next slide I'll show you exactly what it's going to look like. You can use Outline View to organize your topics before you start writing, or you can use it to reorganize an existing document. Useful view to work with master documents. So if you are working with a template, and that's what we're going to talk about in Lesson 12, which is the next lesson that we go over. You can use this to work with master documents, so templates as such. Master documents make it easier to organize and maintain long documents, such as reports and books. Page boundaries, headers and footers, graphics and backgrounds do not appear in this view. So let's take a look. this is what your view looks like. So notice these things. These denote your paragraphs. Okay? Now, and we haven't really talked about styles yet, but we will get to that. Notice we have a huge space right here. These buttons allow you to change how your documents are shown in this view. Now we'll get talking about this more later. We won't really use this for a little while, but you do need to know that there is an outline view. Now notice it opens up an outlining tab. How many of you remember what the outlining tab is used for? How many of you remember what this kind of tab is called? Okay, it is called, some would call it an on-demand tab, or you could say it's a contextual tab. Okay, so it's either on demand or contextual tab. We haven't talked about on demand tabs. Whoops. Again, a new pen. Whoops. Welcome to my world. We haven't talked about on demand tabs yet because that is more of a on-demand tabs are more of an expert level information that you need to know, but just know that the outlining tab can be called an on-demand tab or a contextual tab. Both are appropriate. Notice here again, the fourth button is the outline tab. Okay, the fourth button is the outline tab, and we'll move on now that we had our mess up. The next and final view of the 5 is called the draft view. Again, this is accessible on the view ribbon document views group, and you click on draft. Draft view is designed to make it as easy as possible for you to enter and edit text. In earlier versions of Word, so that's pre-2007, draft view was called normal view. This is something you definitely need to know. Draft view was called normal view. And this simplifies the layout of the page, and is useful for editing and formatting tasks. And headers and footers are, again, not visible. Not visible in this view. And let's take a look at what this looks like. So here again we have draft view. If you notice, this view looks very similar to web layout view. However, you still have your margins, which are located here. Okay, and you still have your page widths. Okay, so this page width is 7.5. Okay, so draft view and web layout view look very, very similar. This just simplifies your view. Now, typically, the view that I only ever use is print layout view. This is the only view I ever use, just for the sole fact it's the easiest view to look at. Especially if you're writing a long-term paper, you can see how many more lines you've got to make it to that 2-page mark. Okay, so that's it for the 5 views, but we're going to talk about one more view here that I'll just throw in because it technically is a different type of view. But it doesn't actually fall under the View tab. So let's move on. The last thing we're going to talk about in this video is the print preview, which is found in the Backstage view. Okay, so if you go to File and then you click on Print, that will show you your print preview. Now, we've already talked about this a little bit in Lesson 1. It's designed to show you just how your document will look when you print it. Use Print Preview to make sure your document's layout is exactly the way you want before you go ahead and print it. You can preview, set print options, and print the document, all from the same view. Now, this is something new. This is new in 2010 because in older versions, so I'm going to say pre-2010, you had print setup, you had print preview. Whoops, I keep making my P's and R. And then you had print. Whoops. Now you just simply have print or file print. Okay, so this is something new in 2010. Pre-2010 had these three different options. All right, so that's something that you might want to know. So let's move on and take a look at what this looks like. I think I have a view, and if my computer... Okay, sorry about that, guys. Had a bit of a computer issue. We're going to finish up just looking at this view. Here we go. And notice that we're under the Backstage view. So we're under the File tab. Notice here, and we clicked on Print. And we've already talked about how to print. And this is what the view is. It's just right here. It just shows you what your document's going to look like when it comes out of the printer. Now, I do want to talk about a few things right here. This is the printer status button. Okay. This, if you click on this button, as you well know, it will show you what printers are available. I'll do this.